Because our note cards will be held together by a binder clip, we need to create a margin on the left side of our note cards. So for this guide, place 2 fingers on the left-hand side and make a mark, and that's where you're going to start your path of the bouncing ball. Start by using a line to show the path of the ball. This is also known as the line of action. Remember, with each impact of the ball, it loses energy, so each bounce will be less and less high, and they also are quicker or smaller spaces in between the bounces. Okay, let's take a moment and we're going to draw our path of action. So we start it free falling from the top, we bring it down to the bottom of our note card, then we bring it up a little bit higher, then we bring it back down. And so I would try and have at least 2 bounces, maybe 3 within your line of action. Now we are going to add the ball to our line of action. Remember, we want to keep the ball or the circle the same size every time we draw it. We're going to start by drawing the key poses. This is when the ball is at the highest and lowest point of each bounce. Start by drawing part of your circle going off of the note card so that we don't see the first circle as a full circle. Then a little of the way down, go ahead and add another one. Then at the bottom or the valley of the bounce, go ahead and draw one at the peak, draw one at the next valley, draw one at the peak, draw one at the next valley, until you have one at each peak and valley. Again, try to keep these circles the same size when you draw them. Now we're going to add the breakdowns, which is the halfway point between the key poses. At the top of the arcs, the balls should slow down. So we show this by having more overlapping drawings and the circles closer together. Have fewer circles in the middle of the fall and in the middle of the rise because that's where the ball is moving faster. All right, so here's how we add the breakdowns. We find the halfway point between each of our circles. So between the one at the very top and the next one down, I draw a circle. Again, I'm trying to keep these the same size. Then between my next two, and I keep adding my circles in between each of the circles on my arcs. All right, now we're going to add the in-betweens. So we're going to be placing our circles in between the ones that we just drew, and we really need to think about spacing with this one. We want to make sure we have lots of circles overlapping at the tops and near the valleys to show that slow in, slow out technique that we've been learning about. So just a reminder, remember when you have more frames closer together, it's going to slow down the action. And remember, at the very top, it's going to start slow because it's building momentum. As the ball is falling, it's going to go faster, so we will have fewer circles. So right now I'm going back in between the circles that I just had and adding more circles to help show the slow in and slow out. So as our ball reaches the peak of the bounce, again, it slows in momentum before coming back down. So you want more circles at the very top of the arcs, and you also want more circles toward the bottom of the arc after it bounces. Okay, now we need to add our stretch ovals. So remember, when the ball is about to hit the ground and after it hits the ground and recoils, it stretches out. And so we want to make these more longer and ellipse shape instead of having it the consistent circle shape. So start by identifying where the bounces are on your paper, and that's where you're going to add an ellipse or a longer oval shape. Now remember, this should be about the same amount of mass, so think about taking that same circle and just stretching it and use that to help guide you with size. And then as you continue, you might have to adjust some of your circles to make sure that you have space for them to see this effect. So then I find my next bounce. Again, I make another ellipse. As I move into the next area, I go ahead and erase and add another ellipse after the bounce. Remember, it's okay to make adjustments as you're going through in order to make space for the ellipses. You might also end up erasing and redrawing areas just to help make it more clear or easier to see where you need your circles and ellipses. Now we're going to go back and adjust our ovals that are hitting the ground. these need to be squashed into an ellipse shape. So whenever our circle hits the ground, it becomes an oval or ellipse shape. You can also show that there's less of an impact each time it hits the ground and make your ellipses a little less severe with each bounce. I started by erasing the bottom circle on the bottom of each of my arcs, and then I drew an ellipse shape for each of them to show where the impact was and how it was changing the mass of the circle when it hits. Your squash should be in between where you have placed your stretch. It should be at the bottom or the valley of each of the bounces. So here I had 4 squash ovals that I had to add. You do not have to write stretch and squash. I only did that to help show where it was at. Next, I go through and now I'm checking my circle sizes, making sure my circles are nice and clean, that I can tell where I've placed them within the path, making any adjustments to their placement that I need. Okay, our next step, we need to go through and we need to number each of our circles. Each circle is a frame, and so it's important to help us keep track of which frame we are on. We have to label each of our circles. So go through, number your circles. Now remember, you need to have at least 20 frames. You can have more than that, but you need to have at least 20 frames. If you get done numbering and you realize you don't have enough, look to see where you could add some more circles into your action. Once you have all of your circles numbered, then you're going to take a thin Sharpie or a pen and you're going to retrace your circles. Take your time, go slowly. I do not keep any white out, so you want to make sure that you're being very intentional with your placement. As you are tracing, watch your shapes, especially make sure to include those ovals where you have the squash and stretch going on within your design. Once you have traced your circles in Sharpie or pen, you're going to take your eraser and you're going to erase your pencil lines. Please leave your numbers so that way you can tell where you are at with your animation. If you've made a mistake, it's okay. You just might mark where that mistake is at so that way you know to fix it when it is time to draw it. All right, for our next step, we're going to need to move over to a light box or use the light box at your table. You're going to take and you're going to stack a note card over the top of your original path of action. Please try to line up your note cards as closely as possible. Then you're going to take and write the number of the circle that you're drawing in the bottom left-hand corner. So I wrote a number 1, and then I went up to the top and I traced what I saw for my number 1 circle. Please make sure that you are working in pencil for this. Then I take a new note card. Again, I tap them to align them and set them on the light box. I write the frame number that I'm on, which is 2, and I trace the number 2 circle. I set it off on top of my number 1 note card off to the side. Then I take a new note card. I set it down. I write the number 3 in the bottom left-hand corner. I trace the number 3 circle. Then I take that note card. I set it off to the side. Then I find a new note card, I line them up, I set them on the light box, I trace the number 4 circle, and I write a number 4 in the bottom left-hand corner, and then I set it off into my pile, keeping them in order. And I continue to do this process until I have all of my circles traced. Remember, right now we do not have enough light boxes for everyone, so if you are at a large light box, I'm going to ask that you share it with another person. If you're using one of the smaller light boxes, please move quickly so that the next person can have a turn with it. Make sure you're trying to be accurate with your circles to match your path of action that you drew in the beginning. Once you have all of your note cards completed, go ahead and put them back into order. So I started with my last one and then worked my way backward. If you notice that you forgot to label one of your note cards, you can take a moment to do that now. Just in case they were to get out of order, it helps you make sure you have them. Next, you're going to take a large binder clip and you're going to clip it on the left side of your flip book. and then you're going to take and very carefully flip your pages, seeing how it works. You can flip it backwards and forwards and see. Now, I used a little clip. I found that it didn't give me enough tension, so the bigger clips you're going to find work a little bit better. Now, as you're looking at it, if you discover that you need to add a frame, I noticed there were some areas where I had some really big skips in animation. I decided to take and go back to the light box and add a couple more note cards. So for example, I didn't like the smoothness of the animation around frame 6. So I took the binder clip off. I found note card number 6. I placed it on the light box and I put a fresh note card over the top. And then I just offset a little bit from that circle and added a circle a little bit above the circle on the path of action. And then I took and switched to note card number 7, and I added another note card near it that was just a little bit past it, and added an additional circle. And then I added these 2 new note cards into my flip book, reattached the binder clip, tested it out, and I liked how much smoother my animation was. When you are all finished with your flipbook, please take your path of action, that is going to be the last page of your flipbook, add your binder clip back onto it, and then you need to take a pencil and write your name and hour across the bottom of the flipbook so I know who to give credit to for this flipbook.